Ladies and gentlemen, you want to grow, succeed, and become the version of yourself you see in your dreams. Then listen closely, because here's the truth that most people never say out loud. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It sounds simple, but it's everything. See, your brain is wired to keep you safe, to keep you small. It loves routine. It loves predictability. That's why staying comfortable feels so good. We all have routines. The morning coffee, the same route to work, the way we delay decisions until they feel right. It's what your brain wants. Safety, repetition, predictability. It keeps you from danger, but what we often don't realize is that this desire for comfort, it's the same thing keeping you stuck. You weren't born to play small, yet most people live their entire lives inside invisible boundaries of comfort, doing what they've always done, thinking what they've always thought, and getting exactly what they've always gotten. Let's look at it through the lens of neuroscience. Your brain operates off patterns. Once it figures out how to do something safely, like driving to work or reacting to stress, it files that behavior into your subconscious. It becomes automatic. This is efficient, sure, but it also creates a trap. The more comfortable a routine becomes, the harder it is to break free from it, even if it no longer serves you. That's why comfort breeds mediocrity. Not because you lack potential, but because you've stopped challenging it. Think about athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, the people you admire. None of them got where they are by repeating what they already knew. They became extraordinary because they stepped into discomfort on purpose. They tried, failed, adjusted, repeated. They grew through the friction, not the ease. Now apply that to your life. What areas have you grown stagnant in? Be honest, maybe it's your health, your relationships, your career, not because you're incapable, but because you got comfortable, you stopped pushing, you settled into patterns that feel good short-term but cost you long-term progress. Here's something that's critical to understand. Comfort isn't always physical. It's mental, emotional, spiritual. Sometimes we stay in jobs we hate because we're comfortable with the paycheck. We stay in relationships that aren't growing because we're comfortable with the familiarity. We hold back from taking risks because we're comfortable with who we are, even if we don't like who we've become. Comfort is sneaky like that. It disguises itself as peace, but it slowly numbs your ambition. Now, here's where the science gets empowering. The moment you push outside your comfort zone, even just slightly, you activate a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. That's the part responsible for decision making, problem solving, innovation. It's where creativity and courage live, but it only lights up when you challenge yourself. This is why the discomfort you feel when doing something new, speaking in public, going to the gym, starting a business, is actually a sign you're growing. It means your brain is adapting, expanding, learning to operate at a higher level. But if you avoid that feeling, if you choose the couch over the call, the delay over the action, you reinforce the opposite, stagnation. Let's get even more real. There is no such thing as staying still. You're either growing or decaying. There is no neutral. Every time you choose comfort over action, you're quietly reinforcing fear, doubt, and hesitation. You're training yourself to be passive in your own life. That's how mediocrity sets in, not overnight, but over time, choice by choice, excuse by excuse. And let's talk about identity. Every time you break through a comfort zone, you reinforce a new version of yourself. A more confident, resilient, focused version. You're not just building skills, you're building belief. That's where transformation happens, not in the result, but in who you become through the process. This isn't motivational fluff, it's psychological truth. Behavior shapes identity, and the more you act with courage, the more courageous you become, not in theory, in practice. So how do you begin to dismantle the comfort zone? You do it with intention. You start by doing one thing every day that makes you uncomfortable. Send the email, speak up in the meeting, wake up 30 minutes earlier, say no, say yes. Whatever it is, move toward what scares you, not away from it. Because that small stretch, that moment of resistance, that's where your future self is forged. Let's be clear. Comfort isn't the villain. It's just not the goal. It has a place. Recovery, rest, healing. But if you live there, you're not living, you're hiding, and the longer you hide, the more your potential dims. You don't need more time, you don't need more motivation, you don't need permission. What you need is to decide, right now, that comfort has had enough of your energy. That your dreams, your growth, your next level are worth being uncomfortable for. Because they are, and the moment you get that, you take your power back. Growth doesn't happen when things are easy. It doesn't show up when you're certain, relaxed, or completely in control. It shows up right after discomfort does, right after fear, right after resistance, right after the voice in your head says, "This is too much." Because that voice, that's the threshold, and when you cross it. That's where growth lives. Let's break this down scientifically. There's a concept in psychology called neuroplasticity. It means your brain is capable of change, of forming new connections, new pathways, new habits, literally rewiring itself based on your experiences and actions. But here's the catch. Neuroplasticity kicks in when you stretch, not when you repeat, not when you're passive, but when you step into unfamiliar, uncomfortable situations and your brain is forced to adapt. So if you want to grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you have to leave what's familiar. Think about when you first learned to drive. It was awkward, uncomfortable. Your hands were tight on the wheel, your heart was racing, and every movement required full focus. That was growth. Over time, it became second nature. You grew through the discomfort, but that growth stopped the moment it became easy. So now, the only way to grow more, learn a new skill, drive in a different country. Try something you haven't done before. This is exactly how life works. Every time you step outside the boundary of what you're used to, whether it's learning something new, facing a fear, changing your environment, or simply saying yes to a challenge, you push your edge further out. And the more often you do that, the more you expand as a person. The problem is, most people wait until they feel ready, but growth doesn't wait for readiness. It requires movement before you're ready. You've got to understand this. The feeling of not being ready, that's the invitation. That's the exact moment you know you're stepping into growth. The discomfort isn't a warning sign, it's a green light. Your brain is waking up, your instincts are sharpening, and you are literally evolving in real time. Let's go even deeper. There's something called zone of proximal development in educational psychology. It means you grow the most when you operate just outside your current abilities, with guidance, challenge, or pressure, not so far outside that it overwhelms you, but far enough to stretch you, far enough to make you question what you're capable of, and prove it to yourself. That's the sweet spot, and you'll never find it in comfort. Comfort keeps you in repeat mode, same thoughts, same patterns, same actions, same outcomes, but when you leave comfort, you enter curiosity. You learn, you fail, you bounce back, you build resilience, you build confidence, not from achievement but from effort, and confidence is the rocket fuel of growth. It's also where you find identity. You discover who you really are not when things are going right, but when things are hard, when you feel stretched, when you're unsure and keep going anyway, that's when you meet your next version. It's not about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to be uncomfortable on purpose, to walk into the fire of growth, knowing it will burn off the excuses, the doubt, and the small thinking you've outgrown. Growth is messy. It's full of failure, awkwardness, uncertainty. But that mess, that's the evidence that something is shifting inside you, that you are no longer who you were, and not yet who you're becoming, that in-between space. That's where transformation happens. Think about working out. You don't build muscle from doing easy reps. You build it when it starts to burn, when it gets hard and you keep pushing that discomfort. That's the growth zone. Same thing with mental strength. Same with emotional resilience. It all happens at the edge of comfort. So if you feel uncomfortable right now, good. That means you're alive. That means you're evolving. That means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You can either shrink back into safety or lean forward into uncertainty. You can either stay small or stretch big, but don't lie to yourself and expect results while choosing comfort. The two are incompatible. You want to grow, then chase the challenge. Do the thing that scares you. Say yes to the opportunity that doesn't come with a safety net. Walk into the unknown with your knees shaking and your heart pounding. Because when comfort ends, growth begins. That's where your real life starts. There's a pattern behind every person who achieves something remarkable, something real. Whether it's in business, athletics, health, or personal growth, the secret is never just raw talent, luck, or motivation. It's discipline, and do you want to know what builds discipline? Discomfort. Every time you resist the urge to quit, every time you do the hard thing instead of the easy one, every time you choose what you need over what you want. You're not just building willpower. You're literally programming discipline into your brain and nervous system like software. We are all creatures of habit. Our brains crave efficiency. And when you repeatedly push yourself through discomfort, you train your body and mind to expect it, to embrace it, and eventually to become stronger because of it. Discomfort becomes the new normal, and that's when real change begins. Let's make this practical. You wake up and don't feel like working out. That moment right there, that's the opportunity. You don't feel like sending the pitch, starting the paper, turning off Netflix, facing the awkward conversation. That resistance, that's the exact signal that something important is waiting on the other side. Now let's back this up with brain science. In neuroscience, there's something called the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decisions, logic, planning, and self-control. But here's the catch, it's lazy. It only activates when you choose to do something hard. When you're scrolling or staying passive, it's practically asleep. But when you consciously lean into discomfort, get up early, do the workout, say no, take action, that part of your brain fires up. You become focused, sharp, determined, and here's the part nobody talks about. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days it shows up. Most days it doesn't. If you're waiting to feel like it, you'll never build discipline. Because discipline has nothing to do with how you feel. It has everything to do with what you choose. Discipline is choosing to show up after the mood has passed. Discipline is doing the uncomfortable thing again and again, even when there's no immediate reward. Discipline is delaying gratification because the long-term win matters more than the short-term relief. And where does that discipline come from? From leaning into the uncomfortable moments, not avoiding them. Think about any skill or habit you admire in someone, their fitness level, their public speaking, their calm under pressure. It's not magic, it's reps, repetition in discomfort. They chose to practice when it was inconvenient. They chose to try when it was scary. They failed forward, and each time they showed up in discomfort, they hardened their discipline like steel. Discomfort builds consistency, and consistency is how you build trust with yourself. See, when you show up once, that's a win, but when you do it twice, then 10 times, then 100, you build a reputation with yourself. You start to believe, I'm someone who follows through, I'm someone who doesn't quit, I'm someone who keeps going. That identity shift, that's the real transformation. And here's the truth. Comfort does the opposite. It chips away at your confidence. Every time you give in to what's easy, every time you let yourself off the hook, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who bails. And over time, your brain will believe you can't handle pressure, challenge, or growth. But the good news, you can reverse that right now, one uncomfortable decision at a time. You don't need to overhaul your life. Start small, take cold showers, get up when the alarm rings, say no when you mean no, go to the gym even when you're tired, practice when you don't feel ready. That's how discipline is built in moments that seem small, but shape everything. It's not glamorous, it's not viral, but it's powerful, because on the outside it looks like just another workout, just another email, just another choice, but inside it's evolution. Inside it's you refusing to be controlled by your impulses. It's you training your mind to act based on values, not emotions, and that's the mark of someone who is going somewhere. Discipline isn't for the elite, it's for the committed. It's for the person who says, I may not be the most talented, I may not feel ready, but I'll outwork, outlast, and outgrow, because I've trained myself to show up. And the more you do that, the more you embrace discomfort, the more unshakable you become. You stop flinching when things get hard, you stop needing motivation, you just move, you execute, you lead, and that, right there, that's the superpower. That's what separates people who dream from people who do. We're masters at talking ourselves out of the very things we know we need to do. We say we're too tired, too busy, not ready, not qualified. We make lists, we plan, we analyze every angle, but when it comes time to act, we freeze or we delay, and then we rationalize our way out of taking the very step that could change our life. But here's the truth. Nothing changes until you do. You can't out. Think fear. You can't out. Plan procrastination. The only way to beat excuses is through action, not perfect action, just movement. This isn't motivational fluff. This is backed by neuroscience and psychology. Your brain's number one job is to keep you safe. It does that by scanning for threats and avoiding uncertainty. So anytime you're about to do something uncomfortable, something new, something big, something bold, your brain throws up an excuse. Now's not the right time. Let me just prepare a little more. What if I fail? Sound familiar? That mental resistance, it's predictable, but it's not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're on the edge of growth, and the only way to push through it is to act before your brain talks you out of it. When you take action, even the smallest step, you interrupt the cycle, you override the fear, and you prove to yourself that you're in charge, not your doubts. Let's break this down with something practical. Say you want to start a business, or write a book, or speak on stage. Whatever your goal is, you probably know what to do. You've read the books, watched the videos. You don't need more information. You need execution. But what happens? You wait, you research just a little more, you tell yourself you'll start when the timing is better, and slowly the dream dies, not because it wasn't real, but because you never moved on it. The difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck is never intelligence, it's never talent, it's always execution. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Waiting to figure it all out before you move is a trap. Clarity comes through movement. You don't get confident and then take action. You take action. And that's how confidence is built. Here's the beautiful part. Action has momentum. The first step is always the hardest. But once you move, you tap into something powerful. Your brain starts to focus. Your energy shifts. You stop spiraling in doubt and start building progress. Even if it's messy, even if it's slow. Let's talk about the 5-second rule. It's a tool I teach because it works. When you feel yourself hesitate, count 5-4-3-2-1 and move. Don't wait, don't analyze, just move. Physically move your body, open your mouth, hit send, start typing. That simple action bypasses the part of your brain that's trying to talk you out of it and activates your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for intentional action. You'll be shocked at how effective this is. Because most of the time, you don't need more time. You don't need more preparation. You need to stop hesitating and start doing. You already know what you need to do. You know the conversation you're avoiding, the routine you're delaying, the task you're putting off. You don't need more advice. You need a decision. The people who make things happen, they don't wait for certainty. They don't wait for motivation. They act, and the more they act, the more confident they become. That's not luck. That's a habit, and guess what? The more you act, the fewer excuses your brain starts throwing at you. Why? Because you're training it. You're teaching your brain that discomfort isn't danger, that you don't need permission, that you're a person who does hard things. This identity shift is everything, because when you become someone who follows through, someone who moves, you stop being trapped by excuses. You start trusting yourself again, and that self-trust, that's how you become unstoppable. So the next time your brain throws up an excuse, pause, breathe, count 5-4-3-2-1 and move. You don't have to crush it. You just have to start. That's it. One uncomfortable action at a time, because action beats excuses every single time. There's one truth I want to drill into your heart today. Your entire life can shift from one decision. Not someday, not when it feels right, but today, in fact right now. You are always one decision away from a new chapter, a breakthrough, a different trajectory. That's not drama, that's not inspiration. That's fact. One decision to start, one decision to stop, one decision to walk away, speak up, reach out, or leap forward. Most people don't realize the power of decision because they've numbed themselves with indecision. They overthink. They rehearse what could go wrong, they wait for permission, they think there's going to be a sign, but the truth, the sign is the moment you feel uncomfortable, the moment you feel resistance. That's the alarm bell, and when that bell rings, you get to choose, shrink back or step forward. Let's be really clear, change does not require massive overhauls. It doesn't require waiting until Monday or the new year or when you have more money or more energy. What it does require is a decision, a real committed decision. There's a difference between wishing and deciding. Wishing sounds like this: I hope it works out, someday I'll try, I want to, but deciding, that's a completely different energy. I will. I'm doing it now. No more waiting. And here's the thing. They feel different in your body. A real decision carries weight. It feels final. You can almost feel the shift in your energy when it's real. It cuts off the escape route. From a psychological standpoint, a decision does something powerful. It organizes your thoughts. It brings clarity where there was confusion. Once a decision is made, your brain starts looking for the how. Your focus sharpens. Your energy lines up. You stop negotiating with yourself and start building momentum. Let's talk about decisional regret, a term psychologists used to describe the pain of not choosing. Studies have shown that people regret inaction more than action in the long term. Not the things they tried and failed, but the things they never had the courage to start, the relationships they never pursued, the dreams they buried, the uncomfortable decisions they avoided. And I'll tell you why: because those unmade decisions hold the blueprint of who you could have become. And we feel that deeply. Now, let's go practical. Think back to a time you made one bold decision, just one, and it opened up a whole new world. Maybe you applied for something last minute, or said yes to something scary, or finally ended something that was dragging you down. That one moment didn't just lead to change, it led to a new version of you. So ask yourself this: what's one decision you're avoiding right now? One decision that's sitting in the back of your mind that you know would move you forward, but you keep pushing it off. Don't try to change your whole life today. That's not the point. The point is to claim your power by deciding. Make the call, end the habit, say the truth, start the project, go to the gym, send the application, ask for help, forgive, walk away, commit. Whatever it is, do not underestimate the compounding effect of one bold, uncomfortable choice. Because every time you make a decision that goes against your excuses, you reclaim your authority. You remind yourself that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You're the architect of your future. It doesn't matter how slow it feels. It doesn't matter if no one else understands it. That decision is a signal. It tells the world, I'm not waiting anymore. And when you move, the universe responds. Doors open, people appear, resources find you. You shift into alignment, not just with what you want, but with who you're becoming. Let's wrap it with something personal and powerful. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of one decision. A stronger, bolder, wiser version. A version who doesn't second, guess everything. A version who trusts themselves. A version who lives fully, not just survives. You don't meet that version by sitting still. You meet them when you decide that your future matters more than your fear, that your growth matters more than your comfort. So don't wait for the right mood, the right timing, or anyone's approval. Decide. And then move, because you are one decision away from a completely different life. Delivered in the bold, educational, and motivational style of Mel Robbins. So here we are. Let's bring it home. We've walked through the patterns that keep us stuck. We've called out the comfort zones for what they really are: traps, dressed up as safety. We've broken down the science, the psychology, the habits, the truth, and now you know that comfort breeds mediocrity, because staying safe costs you your potential. You know that real growth begins at the edge of fear, in those moments when your stomach tightens and your mind races. You know that discipline isn't born from ease, it's built through choosing what's hard over and over again. You know that action always beats excuses, because motion creates clarity and confidence, and most importantly, you know this: you are one decision away, one moment, one move, one courageous act that says, I'm done waiting, I'm done shrinking, I'm done playing small. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need more time. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move. You need to lean into the resistance. You need to embrace the discomfort, not as a punishment, but as a path. Because discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. Every successful person you've ever admired, they walked through discomfort. They faced the fear. They made the decision when it wasn't easy, and now it's your turn. Your dreams don't live in the comfort zone. Your next chapter doesn't live in safety. It lives in the stretch, in the burn, in the decision to rise above what's easy and choose what's necessary. So today, decide. Decide that comfort no longer controls you. Decide to show up for yourself, even when it's hard. Decide to act before you're ready. Decide to grow, because comfort might feel good now, but progress feels better forever. Let's go. Your future is waiting on the other side of discomfort.